Okay, I guess it being close to 10:30 and we being wired in, we're ready to begin. My name is Cy Rickards. I'm a counsel with the Secretary of State's office and been providing legal advice through this transition period. And we'll be doing so until you hire your own counsel, which I'm hoping will be really soon. With me is Ann Osborne, who is going to act as secretary, and then down the other end, who you all know is Dora Mejia, who, along with a lot of staff, have put together the effort on behalf of the Secretary of State's office to move the transition and to support this commission as it begins. But I just wanted to thank Dora because she's orchestrated it and kept us all in line. Not an easy task. Could we have roll call, please?
Gabino Aguirre.
Here.
Vincent Baraba.
Here.
Cynthia Dye.
Here.
Michelle DeGiulio.
Here.
Jody Filkins-Weber.
Here.
Stan Forbes.
Here.
Connie Columbus-Malloy.
Here via telephone.
Okay, great. Elaine Kuo. Here. Gil Antai.
Here.
Andre Parvenu.
Here.
Jean Rai.
Here.
Michael Ward.
Here.
Peter Yao.
Here.
Okay, and let me indicate for the record that Commissioner Galambos-Malloy is present from Columbia at a location where she has, against all odds, complied with the Bagley-Keene Act. And for all those citizens of Columbia who want to attend the meeting, there's public access. So I think we're in compliance. And then, of course, we have one commissioner who is out of the country, Commissioner Blanco, and unable to attend. But we do have a quorum, so I think with that we can get started, and I'll turn it over to Dora.
Thank you, Cy. Let me begin by congratulating the members of California's first Redistricting Commission. Congratulations. I'm glad you're here today. And welcome to those of you in the audience and those of you watching via the internet. Now that the Bureau of State Audits has concluded their workload related to the selection process, the Secretary of State is providing transitional support until such time as the Commission has hired staff and is up and running. So before I administer the oath this morning to the 5 new commissioners, I'd like to introduce them to you today. First off, at the very far end, I have Dr. Gavino Aguirre, who is from Santa Paula, located in the county of Ventura. Commissioner Aguirre earned his bachelor's degree from UCLA, has a master's in education from USC, and a PhD in social science, comparative education from UCLA. His career in education spans 30 years, and he has founded and or served as a board member of several successful community-based organizations. For the past 8 years, he has served on the Santa Paula City Council. Commissioner Aguirre is registered with the Democratic Party. Next, we have Ms. Michelle DeGiulio, who is from Stockton, located in the county of San Joaquin. Commissioner DeGiulio has spent the past 12 years working with numerous agencies in the Central Valley. She earned a bachelor's degree from the University of California, San Diego, and a master's degree in community planning, urban and regional, from the University of Cincinnati. Commissioner DeGiulio has served as an administrator for the California Council for the Humanities Project and is a training coordinator at the University of the Pacific. Currently, Commissioner DeGiulio is a stay-at-home mother by choice, allowing her to participate in family and community activities. Commissioner DeGiulio is registered as declined to state. Next, we have Mr. Gil Antai, who is from San Diego, located in the county of San Diego. Commissioner Antai is a practicing architect and a part-time lecturer at Springfield College. Commissioner Antai graduated with a bachelor's degree from the University of Hawaii and received his master's degree from Washington University. He has served as a city redevelopment board director for San Diego and as a city planning commissioner for 8 years. Commissioner Antai is a volunteer board member of the Pacific American Academy Charter School and Neighborhood Association. Commissioner on tie is registered with the Republican Party. Next to him, we have Mr. M. Andre Parvenu, who is from the Culver City, located in the County of Los Angeles. Commissioner Parvenu is a geographer, urban planner, and community outreach specialist, having received a Master of Science degree in geography from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and has completed undergraduate work in geography, cartography, and urban studies at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and Howard University in Washington, D.C. He currently serves as a zoning analyst with the Los Angeles Department of City Planning, has worked as a community partnership specialist with the United States Census Bureau, and is a migration specialist with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Commissioner Parvenu is registered as declined to state. Finally, we have Dr. Michael Ward, who is from Anaheim, located in the County of Orange. He has practiced as a doctor of chiropractic and sports medicine since 2005 and teaches anatomy and physiology at Marston Polygraph Academy. Commissioner Ward has a bachelor's degree in communications with an emphasis in public relations, having graduated with honors from California State University, Fullerton, and obtained a doctorate of chiropractic medicine with honors from the Southern California University of Health Sciences. Commissioner Ward is a proud military veteran, having served as a decorated military officer who was awarded a commission with the U.S. Air Force. Commissioner Ward is registered with the Republican Party. I'm honored to have the opportunity to administer the oath for the new commissioners that are present here today. Now I'll ask the new commissioners to please stand. Commissioners, raise your right hand, repeat after me, stating your name after I say aye. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California, and that I take this obligation freely without mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations. And now I turn it back to Cy.
All right, the first order of business, and hopefully my last order of business, is selection of a chair and a vice chair. Let me indicate at the beginning, for the purpose of the audience, both here and those watching over the internet, that we are both recording this and we have a court reporter doing a transcript. So the video recording and the transcript will both be available on our website. And that's true for those of you just joining us. You can also get transcripts of past meetings for the selection process if you want to go back into that. So with that, I would open up the first item of business. We need to elect a chair and a vice chair. It requires 9 votes. And as you probably all know, the chair and the vice chair cannot be of the same political party. Otherwise, it's up to you, and I turn it over to you for introductory remarks. I want to say I don't know everybody by face, and I can't read your name cards, so help me out as much as you can. Thanks.
I'm Commissioner Raya. We had some discussion in our previous open sessions when we selected a temporary chair about the possibility of a rotating chairpersonship. And I don't know whether that's still an item I know it's of interest to some people on the commission, I personally am not interested, so I'll take myself out of it right away, but that may be something we need to address before we go into the selection.
Yes, I think we had that suggestion from a member of the public, Professor Brian Lawson, which I thought was an excellent suggestion. I believe that everyone on this commission has tremendous leadership skill and talent, and I think it will also spread the burden of leadership around a little bit. For those members of the commission who would like to serve as chair or vice chair, I think it's an excellent suggestion. I believe that all of us will probably have to chair some public hearings at some point. I think it's good practice for everyone. So I agree with Commissioner Raya.
Well, I'm going to take a different view. I'm not sure that I think that's a useful thing, and I say that because, I mean, my understanding would be that the chair would have to operate with staff, and I think staff needs to know with whom that they should be speaking, and to make them have to check a calendar to see who's the chair of that particular week. It gives me pause on having a rotating chair.
I would add that we could structure it so that staff is very clear who the chair is that particular week. I imagine that it would vary by meeting, that we would make a decision for some period of time, and I think that staff will have to deal with every one of us anyway.
Cynthia, how would we actually do this? There's 14 members, and we have 8 months, I believe. So I calculate roughly 2 weeks, 3 weeks per person. So we would actually synchronize it along that fashion.
Well, I believe that not everyone probably wants to serve as chair or vice chair, and I think we could actually set it up so whoever is the vice chair becomes the chair next time, so it's actually quite smooth.
That's it.
If I may, let me just comment on the thought of having a rotating chair. As the interim chairperson during the month of December, what I learned is that the media often will only want the chair to comment or be present in certain situations. And by offering that opportunity to more than one member of this commission as compared to just having one person always speaking for the entire commission is probably a good thing. In terms of dealing with the staff, I think Cynthia's comment is probably correct. We all probably have to work with staff to a great extent outside of the formal meeting. And one thought I have is perhaps maybe initially have one chair and then have 3 vice chairs, maybe vice chair 1, 2, and 3, and then just keep on rotating it as a function of whether we want to make it 2 months or 3 months or whatever the period is. That makes appropriate sense. This way, I think we can serve the media community much better by having one of us being close to the source of the request as compared to having one person having to deal with the request throughout the whole state. So I support the thought of a rotating person, and whenever it's appropriate, I would want to make that motion.
Could I ask for a show of hands? How many commissioners would want to do this?
To be chair?
Yeah, to chair or be a vice chair or rotate into the chairmanship.
Commissioner Goavis is raising her hand.
We can see you, Connie.
We know you're raising your hand, Connie.
Connie, you got to raise it higher.
So that was what, about 8? Was that right? So not everyone. Quite a few.
So it looks like there is some interest in considering it. So let me make the motion of and also generate a little bit of discussion in terms of having a rotating chairs compared to have one chairperson for the duration of the commission.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second discussion among the commission.
What do you think about, and I don't have an opinion, I just want to get a reaction to this, the idea of having co-chairs? Because when we go out in the public, as groups, we'll be able to always have a identified chairperson. And as far as our, our collective meetings, we can always have, we can rotate that. Does that have any reaction to that?
How is that different from a chair and a vice chair?
I think with a chair, you would have, as Peter commented on, the media would keep focusing on the chair. But if you have co-chairs, there's, half a dozen people or 5 people that the media can talk to, without having to worry about, who's up. That'd be the main difference.
I think I actually would be more intrigued to perhaps hear Peter, Commissioner Yao, talk a little bit more about his idea of one chair with 3 vice chairs. I guess maybe some discussion about what the responsibilities of the 3 vice chairs would be. It certainly would ensure sort of smoother transition if we are operating in a rotating leadership fashion, in terms of what those 3 vice chairs would then, responsibilities would be.
I don't see obviously the first vice chair would assume the role of the chairperson in the absence of the chairperson. At this point in time, I don't see the second or third vice chairperson having any immediate responsibilities, other than the fact that when it comes time to rotate the first vice chair into the chairperson role, then everybody would advance up one position, anticipating that to be their next assignment. So on that basis, and the person that rotate off the chairpersonship would just go back to the committee, and I anticipate that in the outreach meetings throughout the entire state, it probably would be unlikely that we're going to have all of us being there in every meeting, and it's based on the Arizona experience that we were briefed a month or so ago. They have meetings with as few as 1 commissioners, and so by having perhaps one of the officers, whether the chairperson or one of the vice chairperson there, they'll probably add a little more clout to the meeting as compared to not having any of the officials there. So it may be interesting to make sure that we spread the positions to cover at least the major portion of the state, to make sure that we have at least a recognized official being present. So that's I haven't given it any more thought other than just having a orderly progression of filling the seats.
Before we go much further, if I may have clarification from council, the act requires that the chairman be of one party, the vice chair be of another party. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Democrat, Republican, or may the decline to state be chair, vice chair? In other words, you just can't have the chair and the vice chair being of the same party. And I know that to be the case, but I mean, it's not just one Democrat, Republican. Decline to state can be a chair or vice chair, correct?
I would suggest that would be the appropriate way to interpret that language. It isn't crystal clear, as you mentioned, but it seems to me that's the intent, and I would be comfortable recommending that you proceed that way.
Okay. And
you may get counsel who sees it differently, but ultimately it's your choice. But it seems to me that's within the spirit of the act, and it's within the language of the law.
Certainly, and I would agree as well. In that regard, though, we have to keep in mind that if you do have a circumstance, and Peter, if you have thought about this a little bit further, that if we do have one chair and you have the 3 vice chairs, and as far as the rotation as well, we have to keep in mind the requirements under the Act regarding the party designation. of the chair and vice chair. The other question that I have in your proposal is the period of time in which you're suggesting that a designated individual would be a chair and the 3 vice chairs. Would it run for a period of weeks? Would it run from one meeting to another? Obviously, you cannot have a formal designation of a chairperson until we're in a public hearing, so it appears as if you would have those 1 or 2 individuals, or if you're considering 4 individuals. You know, what period of time are you talking about them being in position?
Majority of the work that this commission would do is between now and August. So let's, for example, we have, let's say, 1 chairperson and 2 vice chairs, so that would be approximately 2.5, 3 months type of interval. And if you want to have it 4 people, then in other words, 3 vice chair positions, then every other month or every 2 months we'll switch over. I would suggest to do it based on calendars compared to based on anything else.
Well, for instance, this is what I'm getting at is after our vote today, and if we agree that there will be a chairman and 3 vice chairs, and if we conclude, or at least adjourn for the moment, our public meeting, let's say Friday, then those individuals that are selected as the chair and 3 vice chairs would continue in that capacity until the next public hearing. Is that your proposal, or would they be going towards until the end of the month? What's your suggestion? I mean, where would the rotation be?
Well, let me just answer your question by mean of an example. Let's say we decide to have 4 positions, 1 chairperson and 3 vice chair positions. And let's just go with the 8 months that we're going to be busy. So the first chairperson would assume the responsibility for the first 2 months through the end of February. And then the first vice chair would then become the chairperson starting with the first meeting in March and go until March to end of April, and proceed accordingly with the 3rd and 4th chairperson. So I think by having a real defined period, whoever is going to be assuming that chairperson position can anticipate and be ready.
We have to understand that, because with the new chairperson would have to be designated upon each public hearing when the transfer is going to be made. Correct. Before we proceed with any further business.
Or between those 2 individuals, we can certainly make decision as to when's the most convenient point to make the transition. But in general, that's what I had in mind. And again, that's just a general thought.
I have another comment, because I don't think we want to, spend too much time overthinking this. Everybody here could be the leader. But I think it's important to have consistency. I also think that when we get into discussing governance, that's probably going to have to include committees, subcommittees, whatever they're going to be called. And that will give everyone an opportunity to assume leadership of a particular area, and I think also possibly serve as the point of contact that Peter's referring to on particular subjects, so that there's, I think, a little more clarity and not, I don't know, my head's kind of spinning right now. It just seems like, whoa, we have enough to keep track of without having to spend too much time, I think, focusing on, a shift every so often.
I had a question for Mr. Rickards. Is there an increased legal sufficiency to the process or to our final work product if the chair is static or if it's rotating?
No, I don't think so. I think in the spirit of the last remarks, one of the things you could consider was to pick a chair and a vice chair today. You could discuss this further under governance, or you could have it put back on an agenda as a specific item somewhere down the road. It's not one of those things you can get on the phone with each other about, unfortunately, and you can't talk about it over dinner. So perhaps You know, Bagley Keen's a little inconvenient about those sort of things, as I've sort of tried to point out. So that would be one thing. But I don't think there's any more legal sufficiency. I mean, I think you have your flexibility to choose however you like, so long as you have an agenda item and so long as you have 9 votes, you can do what you want. But one of the things you might want to do is select a chair and a vice chair. There seems to be an understanding that there may be some variations on that theme that you might agree with, and then we could move on this morning. It's up to you again, and I don't mean to be too pushy, but I just suggest that.
One other point I wanted to make, or observation, was that we talk about most of our work being required to be done by the middle of August, but this is a 10-year commission. There could easily be issues, legal issues or other issues that come up after the August 15th deadline, and so we need to have whatever structure we need to put in place. It needs to be able to be continued after August 15th. I mean, the commission doesn't come to an end on August the 15th.
I mean, one possibility is if we decide to go on the rotating sort of positional leadership is to have 1 chair and 2 vice chairs, and we could have a representative from each of the party designations, so Democrat, Republican, decline, state, other. And then at the leadership level, then we would have equal representation in terms of visibility at that level, especially if those positions are to rotate, and certainly be most visible during the upcoming 8 months.
Could I suggest that maybe for today, for the sake of keeping the meeting moving forward, that we decide on maybe a chair and either 1 or 2 vice chairs. I do like Elaine's idea of maybe 1 from each party. But keep the agenda item open so we can discuss it in further meetings. And I think there's so much that we don't know yet. We can anticipate meetings as a group or when we're in the community, but it's kind of hard to anticipate a rotating basis, number of meetings that we're going to be having, where they'll be located, who will be there. So maybe we could, for the sake of simplicity, make a decision today and move forward and know that we can keep that agenda item open or put it on the agenda later in the process.
I would support that.
Could we have the motion that's on the floor read back, or Peter, I lost track of what it was, so we could maybe amend it?
Yeah, I second.
We have
What's the
would you
motion,
repeat
please?
the motion, Commissioner?
I made a motion of having a rotating chairpersonship. The number is to be determined, whether maybe for simplicity, let me just throw out a number. Let's say 1 chairperson with 2 vice chair, and between the 3 positions, we will fill the 8 months of leadership in that manner, whether it's precisely 2 months or 3 months. We can make that as a secondary decision. But the motion is for electing 3 people to fill the chairpersonships and the vice chairpersonships position.
I wonder if we can just agree that we like the idea of rotation in principle, and then as Commissioner Julia suggested, that we defer the details on this to a governance committee that works out a rotation schedule.
If you like to modify my motion, I'll support it.
That way we can, not have to discuss the details as a group of 14.
And are we suggesting that it'll be 1 from each designated group?
Yes.
Well,
Right.
yeah, legally it has to be anyway, so the rotation schedule just needs to be clear that, no one's from the same party in the rotation.
All right, so I'll yield my motion to Cynthia Dye, who will make an alternate motion.
Okay, so I move that we, as a commission, agree in principle on the idea of rotating leadership, and that the chair and vice chair, or however many subsequent vice chairs, that the details of which will be delegated to an advisory subcommittee, which we will appoint later, but that we can move forward with actually appointing a chair and vice chair for today's meeting so that we can move forward with the business of the commission.
I'll second that motion.
Do you want the motion repeated or reread? No. All right.
We got the idea.
All right, any further discussion from the commission? Public input?
Commissioner Malloy, one question I would have would be if staff could prepare, not being in the room, like a little bit of visualize raise their hands as being interested in a leadership role, and so if that could be placed along with whatever party comes from, so that we could use that as a consideration government alternative.
You know, Commissioner, I think we had some difficulty hearing that, and at the risk of being annoying, can I ask you to please try and repeat it?
Yes, of course. I'm in a public space, so, you know, bear with me. So my question was whether it would be possible for staff to prepare a list of the 8 of us who express interest in playing leadership roles and include with that our party affiliation, so we can have that side by side for consideration on the government.
Yeah, that would be no problem. I just, I think Ann will take care of that and talk to you, and we'll get that list together. Do you have any further comment on that item?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Public comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jim Wright. You've heard me before. A couple of points that in your discussion that I think need to be clarified. First of all, as to the leadership of your commission being from different party, that is literally true. I spoke with Stephen Russo about this particular matter when the rules were being discussed earlier. And it is technically possible, according to him, that you could have a chair and 3 vice chairs, and they all can come from the other group because they are a different party. Okay, so keep that in mind, if you will. One suggestion that I might push to you is that if you're going to change the chairman position, it should be done at the end of each agenda. In other words, you have an agenda today which stretches from today through the 31st. The end of that agenda item might be the right place to change your chairman if you're going to rotate chairman. The key elements, I believe, in your chairmanship that's a plus is that having one person leads to consistency and stability and a single voice to the public and to the media. The downside of that is that that voice tends to take on a coloration of the background of the individual, his empathy, his various attitudes, his party. So those two things are what you need to balance in the process of deciding whether you're going to rotate or not. Thank you for your time.
Just one thing, just to clarify one thing based on the public comment, just for your information, and let me just stick it in here now before I forget it. It's very clear in the Act that the chair and the vice chair must be of a different party. So if you chose a chair of one party and 3 vice chairs of the opposite party, you might down the line face the situation of having a chair and a vice chair of the same party. I know that may be obvious, but easy to forget. So you need to take those things into consideration. I think it's absolutely correct that when you start out, if your chair is a Democrat and your 3 vice chairs are Republicans, you're probably okay right now, as long as we know who the vice chair is. But you just have to keep those in mind. Thank you. Go ahead. Any further comment, public comment? All right, with that, we'll have a roll call.
So roll call on the first motion. Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba?
Yes.
Commissioner Dye?
Yes.
Commissioner DeGilio?
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins Weber?
Yes.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
Commissioner Galambos Malloy?
Yes.
Commissioner Quo?
Yes.
Commissioner Ontai?
Aye.
Commissioner Parvenu?
Yes.
Commissioner Rye?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Yao?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous, and we have a quorum, unanimous among those present. I don't know what your pleasure is. Do you want to now select a chair and a vice chair for today?
Yes.
All right. So that would be the item for you to address. We need to select first a chair.
I would move that we maintain the chair and vice chair as we did previously for the ease of efficiency and moving forward with the first few meetings of the full commission. So I would move that Commissioner Yao be chairperson and Commissioner Dye be vice chair.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, so the motion is that Commissioner Yao be chair, Commissioner Dye be vice chair. We've had a motion and a second. Any further discussion with the commission?
Before we close the nomination, I'd like to move that Mr. Baraka be considered as the chair for the commission as well.
Well, why don't we find out if he would be willing to consider that, and then we'll see how people feel about that motion.
I'd like to know the motivation. If Peter doesn't want to do it, then I'll be happy to join, but if he's happy doing it, I would let it go at his request.
The reason I want to bring that up is because that was the decision we had to face back a month ago. It was between Mr. Baraba and myself, and I don't want to leave him out of the process.
At this point, I would decline.
All right, is there any further discussion on the motion for chair and vice chair? Any public input? All right, hearing no public input, we have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes.
Commissioner Dye?
How about Baraba?
Oh, I'm going wrong.
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba?
Yes.
Commissioner Dye?
Yes.
Commissioner DeGilio?
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins Weber?
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes?
Yes.
Commissioner Galambos Malloy? Commissioner Quo?
Yes.
Commissioner Ontai?
Aye.
Commissioner Parvenu?
Yes.
Commissioner Rye?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Yao?
Yes, thank you.
All right, motion passes. Congratulations. We now have a chair and a vice chair, and I can go back to being I understood that. Now, let me clarify this, my mistake. I understood that to be one motion to choose the chair and the vice chair.
Yes.
Yes.
Did everybody understand that was the motion they were voting on?
Yes.
Okay. My secretary's keeping me tuned in here, so I want to... All right, so congratulations, and now I believe what we'd like to do is move to the Bagley Keene training. Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. What we'd like to ask the chair to do is to appoint a committee of the final 6 commissioners for the sole purpose of taking Bagley Keene training. Our intent here was to get the Bagley Keene training to those individuals. Any of you who want to stay around and hear that again are certainly welcome. For those who perhaps might want to pass that up in view of almost anything more interesting, you can be excused.
Would someone like to make the motion of appointing the committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If none, then I'll just take it upon my prerogative to appoint the 6 new commissioners to be the subcommittee to receive the Bagley Keene training for the next period of time, and after which the entire commission will reconvene.
All right, let me point out one thing, if I would, and beg your pardon to do that. We had, and I just missed it, was reminded, we had reserved some time at this juncture for commissioners to make introductory remarks, if any. So if you would like to do that now, or do that when we come back, that's certainly up to you.
What's your pleasure? Why don't we keep the ball rolling and start? It probably would be appropriate for every one of us to say a couple sentences as compared to just the newly sworn-in commissioners. So let me have Mr. Aguirre start off and say whatever you want to do to the audience that are listening to us.
Anything? Yeah, well, first of all, let me congratulate Mr. Yao and Ms. Dai for assuming a leadership position. I think that the rotation idea was very good. We anticipate some kind of a committee structure for the organization that should kind of fold in pretty nicely if we work out the details through the governance process for the commission. But let me just mention that for me, my interest in the commission is based, among other things, on the Voting Rights Act, which essentially says that all eligibles should be able to vote and that all eligibles should be able to elect representatives of their choice. I don't really think that that's true at this time, and I think the challenge of the commission is perhaps to make it more true. You know, it's not a silver bullet as the work of the commission, but certainly it's incumbent on us as commissioners to try to do the right thing. I feel that this is a great opportunity for California to open up the political process to all citizens and residents through an open hearing process. And as I understand it, the commission will be traveling throughout the state to take testimony and evidence on perhaps what the district should look like for the next decade, and also that there will be careful drawing of the districts based on the 2010 census, and a careful analysis and consideration of what are called communities of interest. And one of the public comments that we received was that we should look at establishing some parameters for the definition of a conflict of interest, rather than trying to nail it down. That, you know, so although there is a tendency to fix a definition and try to stick to it, you know, we have the prerogative of being somewhat flexible. So I would hope that it would be that definition, which I think is very important, would be something that we could perhaps gel as we get more into the process. And so anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to serve the people of California, and it's really a pleasure to serve with what I consider an A team. Thank you very much.
Mr. Baraba?
I thought you wanted to get the...
You want to go with the new candidates first?
You know, I'll just be brief. I think that this whole entire process for the last year for us, and even more so for those who at the state have been organizing this, has been a really impressive undertaking, and one that I think all those who have been involved and been watching it can be impressed with what's happened up until this point. And having reached this far, it's really been an honor to be a part of this commission. And having had the opportunity to meet my fellow commissioners, I can honestly say it's going to be a pleasure to work with them, and I think that all of California can be proud of the quality of individuals and the dedication that they have to this process. So again, I thank you all for being here, and I look forward to the next 8-9 months plus together. Thank you.
I guess I'm next. I I agree with my fellow two commissioners. I'm very honored and humbled by this position to be on a member of this commission. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. It's a huge task, but with a good transparency plan, a good outreach plan, a lot of hard work, I think we'll get it done in 8 months, and California will be better off. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am truly honored as well and privileged to be a part of this commission. I watched this process from the very beginning. The integrity, the due diligence, the openness, the transparency of this process has been truly tremendous. And you have really, the State Auditor's Office and the Applicant Review Panel has really set the bar for other states to emulate in terms of selecting citizens from a pool initially of 30,000 to reviewing all of the applications, the work involved, and I'm truly impressed by that process. And I want to thank the fellow commissioners of 8 who has seen something in me to consider me among the remaining 28. And I'm convinced that you've selected me not based simply on the color of my skin, but by the content of my character and the strengths of my qualifications. And I intend to use my analytical skills in terms of geography and planning to the best of my ability, to be a team player, to get this job done. It's a fast train, and we've got a destination, and that's August the 15th. We're going to pool our resources together and make it happen. I've done my homework. I've had time to review the videos of each commissioner here. I've read the materials. I've watched the training, so I'm ready to get started. I'm ready to get roll up my sleeves and get busy. I'm not so much concerned about the leadership rotation. I'm concerned about doing the work and getting it done quickly. So I've done my homework. I've read the works of Stephen, watched Stephen Lynn and his experiences in Arizona, Hans Johnson's presentation on demographics, Justin Lewis's work on redistricting, and of course Donna Levitt's presentation on the Bagley-Keene Act. Up to this point, I've been invited to speak at various engagements. I've been reticent or reluctant to do so, although I've watched the videos and I've trained myself by looking at the handbook and manual. I have not received formal training, and I realize how serious the Bagley-Keene Act is, and I did not want to violate that, but now I'm ready to go public, so to speak, and make my voice heard, and bring as much attention to this process as possible to get as much possible public involvement in this. There was some concern about Northern California. I, as a former crisis relocation planner, has had an opportunity to travel extensively through Northern California, having traveled through every road in Mendocino County, Trinity County, Glenn County, Modoc County, camping out at campgrounds and parks and sites along the way, literally living out of my car, traveling and getting to know the landscape very well. I'm a geographer that follows the line of tradition, the school of thought of the Carl Sauer tradition. I've been very fortunate in geography to have learned and studied from some of the greatest minds and cartographers in this nation. Frederick Ritter from Morgan State, the chairman, was a cartographer, advanced cartography. He was descended from Carl Ritter. I was studied under David Woodward, who literally wrote the book on map making, the history of map making, cartography, and David Ward and Denovan and so many other scholars. And I'm looking forward to using what I've learned to the best of my ability. I also have a strong appreciation for the Voter Rights Act. In fact, 1965 is a very significant year for me. In 1965, I integrated the public school system in Lunenburg County, Virginia, as the first African American to be there. And my name was Andre Allen at the time, if you want to Google that. But that was quite a history-making time. So the Voters' Rights Act is very important to me. The diversity of this state is important to me. Traveled extensively through Latin America, Asia, Africa as a geographer. I'm also a tricontinental person, part Native American, part African American. I have also European blood flowing in my veins, so so diversity is very important. But beyond all of that, I think what's most important is that we work together as a team and make decisions and draw lines that will serve in the best interest of the majority of the people and the majority of the citizens in the great state of California. And I'm truly honored to be a part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ward?
Thanks. Good morning. I too am humbled by the opportunity to serve and greatly look forward to beginning the hard work of redistricting. I'm blessed to be a part of an absolutely first-rate team, and I know I speak for everyone when I say that we all look forward to serving all of California. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Would the first 8 members like to make a few comments at this point?
Cynthia will speak for me.
Cynthia?
Welcome to the team.
Let me just make a couple comments before we get going. First of all, welcome. We've been waiting all months of December for you guys to show up. I think all 8 of us, having worked with the Bureau of State Audit, want to take this opportunity to thank them for the support that they have given to us for that. The Bureau of State Audit not only provide the 8 of us exceptional support during the trying period when we get to know each other and uncertain as to how often and how long we're going to meet, and they stuck with us working long hours. So at this point in time, I think speaking for the first 8 members, we want to thank you for the great support that they have given to us. I think a clap of hand is in order for all the staff of the Bureau of State Audit. I think without any further ado, we are ready to, Connie, you want to chime in a little bit?
Yes, I just wanted to especially say a big thank you to Dora and to Chris for all of their support trying to arrange the logistics for me to be able to participate from far away. It was quite an adventure trying to find a strong internet connection from the small island that my family is from, and Chris and I were up very late last night, kept calling each other, and although I've not had the opportunity to meet any of you in person, I just appreciate your commitment to this important process as much as ours as commissioners. So thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you, Connie. I know we have a very limited amount of time. I think each of us can go on for hours in terms of thinking of all the things that we need to thank the Bureau of State Audit, and that really made us very productive during the month of December. I think we all recognize that we have a great team. We're ready to go to work. Today, we're going to make some decisions on not only the hiring of staff, but also on the planning for the next coming period of time. The last thing I want to comment is public outreach is extremely important to us, and we constantly want to seek your input to this commission. If you see us doing something, if you see that we can do something better, by all means, let us know, because we welcome that kind of input. It would be impossible for us to, quote unquote, to draw the map without input from you, and your input is absolutely essential. So I want to take this point to speak for the entire panel, saying that we're here because we want to hear from you. So without further ado, I'll turn the mic back to Cy for the meeting.
If I can, Cy can get his mic on. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move into the Bagley-Keene training for the final 6 commissioners. Again, we've asked Donna Neville from the Bureau of State Audits to conduct that training. She's here. Okay. And for those of you who haven't met Donna, don't know her, she's a lawyer with been with over 20 years of state service. She got her degree from the University of California, Davis. First started with the Legislative Counsel's Office, where she advised members and staff, and particularly on matters of environmental quality and education. She moved on to the Bureau of State Audits and served as Associate Chief Counsel. She was appointed by the governor in 2008 to be Chief Counsel to the Board of Education, so she has hands-on experience with a public body that has to comply with Bagley-Keene and as well with the Voters First Act. She went back to Bureau of State Audits, and as those of you, some of you know, she's been intimately involved in the Bureau's work to select the commission and to support the commission and to bring the commission up to this point. And the final reason we asked her to come today is I watched her make the Bagley-Keene presentation and realized that you really got to go with the A-team, and she is the A-team. So I asked her to come on up now and start.
All right, if the members of the first 8 group would prefer not to sit through it one more time, you may be excused.